Evolution as creation. God is the creator, but does he create? No, actually he turns the job over to parents, male and female. If God goes that far in turning the creating process over to underlings, couldn't he also turn over the process of speciation to turn that over to underlings? I'm talking about the job of creating new species. Couldn't he turn that over to underlings? What do I mean? Who would he turn it over to? Previous species. Just like he turns the job of creating new individuals over to individuals that already exist, namely mother and father. He could turn the job of creating new species over to species that already exist. They would be the parent species, so to speak. What would we logically call this process of early species creating new species, or God creating new species through the use of already existing species? Well, obviously, we can call that evolution. So God would be creating through evolution. Evolution would be creation. When God turns the role of being the creator over to human parents, this is not a trivial thing. This is not a minor matter. This is not something for us to just dismiss by saying, of course. Instead of dismissing it as quickly as possible, why don't we try to dwell on it as long as possible? What can it mean? What can it portend? First of all, procreation, gestation, and giving birth are all part of nature. And Paul the Apostle says that we can learn the truth about God through studying nature. This is from Romans 1, verse 20, verse 19 through 21. Now, humanity is part of nature, so we can study humanity and thereby discover truth about God. Well, the fact that God has turned the role of creator over to human parents, that tells us what God is like. That this is the way he does things. He likes to delegate the work over to other people. In our case, it's people. But he turns the work over to creatures. He turns the work of creating calves over to cows. He turns the work of creating puppies over to dogs. This shows us his nature. This shows us what God is like, the way he likes to do things. Proverbs 3:19 says that by wisdom God created the heavens and the earth. Now, we can apply this to a subset, namely the creating of life. We can say that God has created life through His wisdom and His understanding. Now, doesn't it show wisdom for God to turn the work of creating each individual over to people that already exist, namely the mother and the father? This shows wisdom, definitely. But we can say the same thing about speciation. Doesn't it show wisdom for God to turn the work of creating new species over to species that already exist?